And coming up on this episode of the Marty Mariner Show, it's going to be a little bit different. Yes, if I was going to start a separate series of talking to legends of the game of football here in this country, icons, if you will, this guy would have been the very first guy I would have asked to interview straight up anyway. I use the word legend a fair bit. He is an absolute legend of the game here in the country, probably the most famous number 6 to pull on the Socceroo shirt. Paul Wade, OAM, joins me for a bit of a chat, a bit of a chinwag, a bit of a conversation. I am sure we could probably speak for 4 or 5 hours about the game of football, his history through playing, through the Socceroos and all sorts of different things. We're going to try and capture as much as we possibly can and put it in an episode. I absolutely cannot wait. As I said, it's an absolute honor to be able to take some time to have a bit of a chat with him. And let's not keep this great man waiting any longer. It's Paul Wade. He's coming up right now, and it's the Marty Mariner Show. Yes, welcome back to the Marty Mariner Show. Now, as you know, I throw the word legend around quite a fair bit, but we've got a bona fide legend in the house tonight. Australian football royalty, might I add. Paul Wade, OAM, mate, what a pleasure to have you on. Welcome to the Marty Mariner Show. How are you doing?
Marty, any better? I'd need a twin. Maniacal is another one I use, excessively enthusiastic. Wow. You know what I mean, Marty? It's, g'day, how are you? Yeah, good, how are you? Like as if we care. Well, I do. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's absolutely, as I said, it's an honour to be able to spend some time just talking some football, particularly around all the experiences and everything that you've had in life, and also what you're up to these days. Mate, as I ask everyone who comes on the show, what's your first footballing memory? What's your, when you look back now and you think that's the first time I remember kicking a ball? What's your memory from that?
You know what? I've got a photograph of me. I would have been about 18 months old, standing over a football in these very ordinary shorts. They weren't football shorts. They were things that my mum made me wear, and a jumper, because I grew up in the north of England. So visually, that's what I remember.
Yeah.
As far as actually playing the game, I grew up in St Helens, big rugby league town. And you know what? I lived next door to a pub, and that pub had a car park, and every kid who loved football played in that car park. And there's a small, if you actually Google Earth it, I've measured it, it's 15 meters by 7, and it's grass. It's right in front of the pub. That was our Wembley Stadium. Do you know what I mean? That was our wow. And you'd commentate on what you did and what everyone else was doing. And it was such a free and easy time. Nobody telling us what to do. No cones, no bibs, just play.
Just play what's in front of you. And I mean, I think you came out from England about 11 years old. I mean, I did the same. Like 11 years old, came out from England myself. But from my memory, it was very much that, you know, during lunch times at school or straight after school, it was 4 jumpers meant 2 goals. You knew who was on whose team. You could remember the score from the day before. It was 25-26. Didn't matter. It was play what was in front of you and play, right? It was just have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And no matter how many times you tell kids nowadays, it's almost like we've ingrained it in them. It's in their mind you can't have fun because you've got to be on a career path. And as much as I enjoyed it, I've got to be on a career path. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody said to me the other day, kids have got no time to daydream. And I thought, that is true, because we always want them to do things again. And they, come on, you've got to be doing this, you've got to be doing that. Oh, please, leave them alone.
Absolutely. Do you think that's I think it's true, but do you think it's affected the game itself? Whereas it used to be, and we see pictures from all over the world, kids, wherever they were, playing football, jumpers down, market, didn't matter. But now we've sort of got the younger generation who are playing the games on, they're playing as Messi, they're playing as Ronaldo, doing the tricks, and it's all right in front of them. That's got to change the way that we actually playing the game itself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think we needed to go through that change, because working hard and being aggressive at the highest level wasn't going to work for a long, long time. So we needed that let's change our tack. Let's talk about the focus on skill and tactics and all those sorts of things. But you know what, Marty? I can't help thinking about all the football you and me played outside of a training session.
Oh, 100%.
It's almost like the kids nowadays. Well, we're training Tuesday, Thursday, and we got a game Saturday, or the girls Sunday.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I love it for what? 2 hours during the week and an hour and a half on the weekend. That's not enough. I don't know. What are we doing? I don't know.
It's strange, isn't it? Because someone even said to me, I was talking about this very subject the other day, and they said, well, how long would you play for? And I said, as long as we had to be home by dark. So full time, if it was 2 minutes before dark, that's when full time was, because I had to get home because I get my ass kicked if I wasn't home in time. That's when full time was. And then we just hang out for the next day and do it all again and stuff like that. But I just think it's a general thing, isn't it? That, and learning to play in front of you. Like you might have 5 or 6 defenders or a whole midfield, but learning, well, how do I get through this? Rather than pressing our buttons, we sound like 2 cranky old Benny. I love it every second. But
we love it. We've worked hard to be in this position, haven't we?
I feel like those 2 old blokes on the Muppets up there on the side. But you had to do it, didn't you? You had to do it with your feet and learn how to handle it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was probably the only place that you didn't get judged because it was so free and so, if the ball went out and you played on, it didn't seem to matter. Yeah. And if you miscontrolled the ball, it didn't seem to matter because nobody had any sort of, you've got to do this.
Yeah.
And so I think to myself, Kevin Keegan, John Toshak, Emlyn Hughes, Ian Callahan, they, to me, when I was playing, I would commentate as them. Oh, Keegan to Toshak, diving header, what a goal.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It wasn't just, I'm going to buy your shirt, Kevin, because we couldn't afford it.
Yep.
But it was about mimicking exactly what I saw Liverpool 100%. Do against Everton on the weekend. And all your mates wanted you to do it as well. Or they wanted to be Keegan and Toshak themselves. So now we got a competition.
Absolutely. I mean, and a bit later down, I was a big Glenn Hoddle fan. So the shirt was all out. The socks were up, tied with a little shoelace with a bit of the lace out the side, and I never tucked the shirt in again. Done matter who. I wore number 10 because that's what we did, right? We saw what they did, and we went out on the weekend and tried to do it ourselves. Definitely a totally different time. For yourself, coming out to Australia, brand new country, 11 years old, how was that for you?
Awful. Yeah. It really was. It was awful. Awful in the fact that when I got here in October, I had to go to school for the last term. And I've only just discovered this talking to my mum because my dad just died recently. So you get time to sit down and talk to your mum about all the things that you would never do. Yeah. And she said that it was, I don't know, there was a certain amount of just joy in everything we do. Yep. But you've got to go to school. When I turned up at school, at Dandenong South Primary School, they were all revising what they'd done for the previous 3 terms.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So when I've turned up, they're doing revision, and this is in year 5. Now, I freaked out. Seriously, I can't tell you how stressed I was. So that when my mum said, look, this is not working, we'll take him to a Catholic. Well, there's 2 brothers and a sister. We all went to a Catholic school, and I stayed down a year because I just couldn't handle the change. Do you know what I mean? I love the weather, these colourful birds, not in cages. It was just beautiful. But the worst side of that was that change and not being able to handle it.
Absolutely. And I mean, again, can remember myself coming out similar part of the year too, and it was like 45 degrees the day we came out there, and I remember thinking, this is just, I'm not going to play football in this sort of stuff. How am I going to survive? But it also, to me, it was also that whole the football life that I had in England as a kid. Like everything was football. I'd watch Tottenham play. I'd do all the things we just spoke about. But out here, it was like read it in the paper 2 or 3 days later about what
Yeah.
had gone on, and that just left a hole, right? Did it? Was it something you strive for? Was to keep looking back and trying to get some information because you just needed it?
No, you know what? I'm as thick as two short planks. I was under pressure and not pressure. I was stressed about school, but once I'd
Yeah.
started school in a year below, I felt quite comfortable. But and people say this to me, oh, did you aspire to be this and that?
Mm,
Honestly, Marty, the most important thing for me was that game,
yeah.
that training session, that pass. I
Absolutely.
knew nothing about the Socceroos. And
Yeah.
even when I did, I never in my wildest dreams thought that's what I want to do.
Absolutely.
And it might sound really, unusual, but it was all about my performance today and not the outcome. It
Yeah.
wasn't about, oh, we lost or I didn't play well or I didn't get picked to play for Victoria.
Sure.
It was just me and my team at that moment.
And that's all you needed. So, what was the first junior club that you got involved with over here?
Dandenong City in the southeastern suburbs of Melbourne, and it was a it was a brand new football team or
Yep.
football club. So
Yep.
they were grabbing kids from anywhere. So
Nice.
my mum said, "Right, they're the closest club. That's who you're going to play for." So I
Yep.
turned up, and these kids had never kicked a ball before because it was such a new club. But I didn't know that. I'm 11.
Yeah.
And I apparently, talking to my mum, she goes, "You came home or got in the car one day after training and you were really miserable and
Yep.
you said to me, oh, Mum, they can't play. They're
Yep.
hopeless."
Yep.
And I look back now and I go, that's a bit harsh. But but that's how I felt,
Yeah.
If that's what I've
Absolutely.
saed when I'm 11, then I'm going to tell you the truth. But yeah, it was
Absolutely.
really weird that nobody else
Yeah.
seemed to play football.
Yeah. No, 100%. And did you always gravitate to the middle of the park? Was that always the spot that you went to?
No, I was a sweeper. Remember the
Oh,
good old
sweeper.
fashioned sweeper?
Gosh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
Snapper,
was
snapper.
a left winger.
Right.
I played everywhere, but at the end of the day, I
Yep.
somebody kept saying to me, "Geez, you work hard.
Yep.
That's where we want you in the
Yeah.
middle of the park, and we want you to
Right.
work harder and harder and harder." And I loved it. And the
Absolutely.
muddier it got, the worse the conditions, the better I seemed to become, or at least try.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was sort of had a little bit of experience, especially well, not that there was much snow around in Dandenong, but there might have been a little bit, I'm guessing. It might get a bit chilly down that way, doesn't it?
No,
Nice.
no. If it gets to 3 degrees, it's like, oh, hang on a minute. We're not going to work today. It's 3 degrees.
Hold the phone. Um, first club, senior club, I think it was Green Gully was the first one you played for.
Yeah, in the old National League.
Yeah. How did all that come about? Was that a time where it was like, I'm going to be a footballer?
Yeah, it's an interesting time. I often tell people this story that I went from juniors to senior football
Mm,
because the youth team I played in, and they didn't have a strong connection to the senior team. The senior team went on strike for more money,
right.
which meant the reserves had to go and play for the first team, which meant the youth team had to go and play for the reserves. And that's how I got my lucky break.
Absolutely.
And when they all came back to start playing again, I was still
Yeah.
there and they
Right.
kept picking me.
Yeah.
And when it came to the National League,
Yeah.
I was playing for a club in the State League, Croydon City, in the eastern suburbs of
Right.
Melbourne.
Yeah.
And the guy in the middle of the park with me, Jimmy Rooney, who I
Yeah.
had no idea who he was, but he played 99 times for Australia. He went to the World Cup, and I'm playing in midfield with him. It
Yep.
was just me and him. He was so skillful, and
Yeah.
all I did was run. And he
Yeah.
got the job at Green Gully, and he said,
Right.
I've got a coaching job at Green Gully. I'd like you to come with
Come
me.
on over.
Funny, isn't it, how you go from step to step? It
Absolutely.
wasn't calculated. I had to be in the right place at the right time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing I noticed too, because I think it was there you moved on to, I think it was Brunswick before South Melbourne, was that right too?
Yeah.
We'll talk about those times. But I sort of know there's a few goals that you put away as well. Was that the old left winger striker kind of coming out of you and hey boss, give me a crack?
Nah, not at all. It hit me on the side of the head up when I went for a corner. That
Right.
was the only time I was going to score. Uh, I joke, and it's true. I couldn't hit the side of a house with a brick.
Right.
I have no idea where the goal was, but I would make sure that I was there to score it, or I did something to get somebody else to score it, or just encourage people. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? I did, mind you, I'll rewind. I scored 11 goals for Canberra Cosmos, top goal scorer for
There
Canberra
you go.
Cosmos.
There you
Wow,
go.
what about me?
Well, that's if that's not on their Hall of Fame or their Wall of Fame or something, it should be. Let's get that happening real quick as well. Um, so we just mentioned Brunswick Juventus and also South Melbourne. Over 200 games for South Melbourne. I think it was around 50 for Juventus as well. That time of your life, establishing yourself, moving on, developing. Who were your influences at that time?
Probably the coach. I always say my dad because, and my mates, when I was younger, because that's the reason you play, because of your mates, because your dad kept taking you to training and
Yeah,
kept turning up for games.
sure.
So you've got to give your dad or your mum
Yep.
or both a lot of credit for that. But when it came to Brunswick Juventus, because I always worked hard at Green Gully and I
Yeah.
loved it, but
Yeah.
I felt the club wasn't going anywhere. And somebody from Brunswick Juventus came and said, "Would you like to play?" And I thought, well, that's a step up a little bit. So I went there, but the coach, Len McKendry, God bless him, he's no longer with us. He just died. Um, his philosophy was, you know what, Marty, when you get this ball, you play it forward. I don't want to see a ball that way or that way. I'm not going to tell you all the time where and when to play it, but it's got to go forward.
Got to go forward.
So our mindset was play it forward, play it forward.
Yeah.
And once we played it forward, we had to support it.
Yeah.
So he worked on the strikers receiving the ball with their backs to the goal. He worked on us having a look before we get the ball, where it was going to go.
Yeah.
And the work ethic, I just thrived. That was in 1986, and that's the time I became a Socceroo. So it was just that mentality of hard work and positive, positive, positive.
Absolutely. And I think I read too. I mean, and you speak of that first with the soccer. Was that first game? I think was it Australia B or something against Tasmania? Was that your first game in the green and gold?
Yeah, nobody counts it, but it was freezing cold and it was raining. And yeah, you're right. In that, I think it was 84, wasn't it?
Somewhere around there.
Not quite sure. Not quite sure. But I was trying to get in that 85, or people told me that you could get in the World Cup side in 85.
Yeah.
Do you know? Because they were playing some serious games, but
absolutely.
Nobody came knocking on my door, and I wasn't really fussed.
Yeah, and the whole Socceroos thing, it was a different time then, wasn't it? Because it's sort of, you look at it and it was like, I mean, I think I've even seen you talking about it. There wasn't like thousands of people. The Socceroos are playing. It was a different time for our national team as well, right?
Yeah. Look, our mindset was we didn't get beat 5-0. Yes. We drew. Wow.
Yeah.
Marty, we drew. What a bonus that is.
Got a point.
That seemed to be the mentality. You know what? We were all hard workers.
Yeah.
There were a couple of classy blokes, but generally we're there for our work ethic. You had to be your best when you played against us because we were going to run you off the park.
Yeah.
But if you had the talent playing against the Socceroos, you were probably going to win and win handsomely, because we just couldn't. I'm saying that as a generalisation. We had Mickey Peterson, Oscar Carino, Jakov, and so many others who you just go, wow. But there just wasn't enough of us.
Yeah. Well, was there ever a moment? I mean, I know you spoke earlier about the Emlyn Hughes and the Kevin Keegans when you were playing. Was there ever a time when you were playing at that sort of level that you saw or heard some other people around start talking about you guys in that kind of vein?
That's a very good point. Somebody, can't remember what team it was, first division, second division, as it was back in the day. Somebody said it was against Israel in a World Cup qualifier, and somebody has said that somebody had come to watch me play. I don't know who said it. I don't know how serious it was, but it never affected me because, who's done that? I've been playing for however many years and nobody has ever said that. So never played for Victoria or went to the Institute of Sport. So why all of a sudden would somebody come just to watch a game like that?
Yeah. Absolutely. And when it did sort of start, and I think my first real memory, to be honest, about Socceroos was the Bicentennial Cup in '88.
Oh yeah.
My HSC year shows my age a bit as well. The 4-1 win against Argentina is still one of the standout games from I remember. Two classic goals in that game. I think there was a 47-yard drive from Yankos and a 2-yard screamer from P. Wade from memory.
No, it's 57 yards now.
It's a
Yeah, it's
57.
on the other side of the halfway line. Come on,
Yeah.
Marty. Come on, keep
Our
up with
research
the.
team, we don't have the funds, mate. We can't look far that back.
No, no. And you're right. I did score the first goal and took off behind the goal over to the fans. And apparently, one of the fans was so excited, jumped the fence. And
Oh,
Andy Pascalides was there with his microphone. And
nice.
apparently, the kid who jumped over the fence got kicked out, which I didn't know, but. Because it was just wow! I scored a goal against Argentina without Maradona, obviously, but Argentina, Brazil, and Saudi Arabia. This was a big tournament, no matter whether it was friendly or not.
Absolutely. And I mean, anytime obviously we'll talk a bit more about Argentina in a sec, but anytime a team comes out and wear those light blue and white stripes, you take them seriously because, I mean, maybe for some people at that stage it wasn't known, but it's an absolute religion in the South American parts, right?
Yeah, if you haven't got a football team, you haven't got any mates. There's no doubt about that. They know everything that's going on with their team. Again, we'll talk about that when I play Maradona over there, but that just emphasized to me how, wow, the passion that they have for football is beyond anything that we could imagine. But it was interesting because when we played against Brazil, we got beat 1-0 and Romario scored a goal.
Yeah.
And so then we played, we beat Argentina 4-1 and then we got beat 1-0 by Brazil. In the final, because we made the final of that Bicentennial Cup, we got beat 2-0 and Romario scored both of them.
Yeah.
And then we got beat 3-0 in the third game and he scored all three.
Wow.
And it was one of those things where you look at them under pressure with the ball. They don't look, if you're putting me under pressure, I've got possession of the ball. I'm looking down at the ball because you're going to get it. Them, the ball's down there and they're still looking for a pass. Yeah. Never gave us the ball back. At one stage, we laugh about it now, but we were going to put our hands on our heads and say, ref, if they don't give us a touch, we're not playing. We're going home. They were amazing.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, world football has certainly changed a fair bit, but there was certainly a fair bit of, Argentina coming to the country, Brazil coming to the country. It's massive, right? Do you think that was about the time that we, in essence, the Socceroos were born? There was a bit of a, hang on a minute, what this football team, what's going on here?
Yeah, I think so. Although, you know what? I think that the belief in the fact that we could get results, maybe not play amazing football, was the 1985 squad. Or when they tried to qualify for the '86 World Cup and they played against Scotland and we were the Mad Dogs and that whole Frank Arrock, we can win games, never mind drawing them. And if we won't win, the opposition had better be their best. So there was a lot of belief in that. But I remember we beat Argentina 4-1. Frank Arrock was the coach. The newspaper quotes was, this is the best result in the history of the game and all of that. And this is how important it was, or how important he realised it was after the game he goes, right, tonight we are going to celebrate. Because there's no point celebrating after we play against Brazil in the final on Sunday. You know what I mean? It was like, this is never going to happen again. So we go out. We spend all night at the bar downstairs. I don't know what time we got in, but it just emphasized, when I look back at it now, that was an amazing moment, even in Frank Arrock's mind, and he's done a lot of good things.
Oh, absolute legend. And, well, it all started in the second minute when you scored too, so... it wouldn't have happened. We can say the whole Socceroos thing wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for that goal. So we can pin it on that. Before we just jump to Maradona, and obviously, it's just, I rewatched, so much of that vision during the week, knowing this was happening, and it still gives me goosebumps watching those things. But I want to run three different names past you, and I just want, if a memory or a story or just some thoughts about them come to mind, whatever works for you works for me. Ferenc Puskas.
Right. I'm embarrassed now to say what happened in a way, because we had no idea who this guy was.
Yeah.
He was short. He was well overweight. He had a funny name.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's what's embarrassing about it. Yeah. Until we were told by some officials at South Melbourne Hellas who he was.
Yeah.
And we didn't exactly sit up and pay complete attention.
Sure.
But the more time went on, the more you realise from conversations you have and from a bit of vision, what an absolute superstar this guy. And he could walk down Swanston Street and nobody would bother him because nobody knew who he was. That's just how unassuming he was, how ignorant, if you like, we all are in Australia. Yeah. I don't blame anyone, but that's the way it was. Absolutely. What a gentleman.
Yeah, absolute legend. I was always going to throw this one out, being a massive Tottenham fan. Ange Postecoglou.
Oh, I love Ange Postecoglou's attitude at press conferences. And I don't mention that first up because it's funny. But if you want to know what Ange is thinking, his philosophy, his whole mindset, just watch one of his press conferences. 100%. Nobody in the English media have tried to take the mickey. They've tried, but he gives them nothing. Do you know what I mean? And he's always saying the right thing at the right time. I'm sure every other manager in England, and who knows, all over the world, will be looking and saying, he answered that very well.
Yeah.
Gave an answer, didn't avoid it, but I just love it. Yeah. And when I think of the mindset that he has, I can think of Puskas. I can think of Len McKendry, because we were both coached by those two gentlemen. That positive, get the ball forward, get it back as quickly as possible. And with Puskas, hey, play. Why are you not play?
Exactly.
And when you get close to the goal, shoot.
Yeah.
They were simple messages, and that's his mindset.
Absolutely.
I love watching him pace up and down the sideline, the positive football they're playing. You must be happy too.
I am. I mean, everyone looks at league positions, but you know what? We're playing some football. We need some players on the park. I think we've had more injuries than anyone else in the league. But no, I'm proud that he's out there doing what he does, and I hope we stick by him and give some time. And just on Ange too, did you always feel he's going to be a coach, this bloke?
No idea. He was a thinker about the game. He had his ideas. He put them into place. He didn't shout and scream, but you knew what you were going to do without being, I better do that, or Ange is going to kill me type scenario. Do you know what I mean? So, if you'd have asked me, he's going to be the coach that he is with the results that he's got, I'd go, please.
Yeah, must be talking about someone different.
Yeah.
And speaking of great coaches and someone who I definitely had a lot of time for, Eddie Thompson.
Yeah, Tomo. Streetwise, that's how I'll put Tomo.
Yep.
You know what? It wasn't always the tactics with Tomo. He knew how to pick players. Yep. He wanted hard work. He wanted honesty. Yep. And that goes a long way. I remember somebody said to me, talent times effort equals skill.
Yep.
And skill times effort equals achievement. Wow. And that was the way it was with Tomo. He just wanted honest players.
Yep.
He wanted the skillful ones as well. Yep. But I'll share this story with you, right? It was before AC Milan, and we were just getting ready for the game, and I was getting off the bus and going to training. Anyway, he called me to his room at the hotel.
Yep. And
he absolutely gave it to me.
Right.
Absolutely tore me apart, saying I got off the bus like an 80-year-old man. And I was shell-shocked. So I've got up and walked out of the room. I was embarrassed. I was angry. I just didn't know what to do. I went to my room and the phone rings. So I pick up the phone. It's
Yep.
Mickey Hickman,
Yep.
who was the assistant coach,
Yep.
right? And I don't know what he said, but it was something along the lines of, hey, Tomo's not happy with you. He's going to give you a serve at the training session tomorrow. Fair chance you're not going to play against AC Milan.
Well,
Now, my answer must have been something along the lines of, well, you know what? Maybe I was getting off the bus like an 80-year-old man. Maybe I am not giving everything that I used to give. I
yeah.
guess he's got to make those choices.
Yeah.
Mick Hickman had handed the phone to Tomo so that Tomo could hear my answer.
Wow.
Yeah, right. He wants loyalty.
Absolutely.
And isn't that true?
Absolutely.
Nowadays, you can have all the skillful players in the world, but unless you've got loyal players,
Yep.
your time is limited. And I've never forgotten that. I've
Yeah.
never cheated and rung somebody up to
No.
do the same thing, but it just
True.
shows you how streetwise he was, and
Absolutely.
probably how you have to be today to survive.
Absolutely. And all about that respect, right? And it goes both ways, which is
Yep. Yep.
yeah, it's yeah. No, the great story. Thanks for sharing that. That's awesome. Um, Maradona, I guess we had to talk about him a bit. Those games, I mean, again, I watched a bit of Vision again, and it still gives me goosebumps just watching it. Just for yourself, I mean, I know there's, you've played in grand finals and championships and all sorts of different things before, but the lead up to this was all about Maradona, wasn't it? Even the game seemed to get lost itself. It was all
Yeah.
about Maradona.
Yeah. Every news bulletin led with Maradona.
Yeah.
What did he do today? Training photographs in the newspaper in Sydney, him training without his bootlaces done up.
Yeah.
Whatever story they could get, they were going to make it about him.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, now I think back and I go, can you imagine that sort of pressure that somebody has to live with?
Yeah.
Like we go out, South Melbourne, Hellas versus Melbourne, Croatia back in the day, 18,000 people, or in the grand final, 24,000. Whoa, pressure. He's got the whole, or had the whole world looking at everything he did. And I remember an interview where he said, you know what, you'll never know what it's like to live my life. And I thought to myself when I was watching this, I thought, that's a different planet altogether, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So to see him come out, and because he was under pressure to try and kickstart the qualifying of Argentina, because they'd been beaten in the last game, and it's like, oh, we need Maradona.
Absolutely.
So to get him back was an even bigger thing. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Because you'd been out of the Socceroo side just previous to that anyway, yourself, right?
Yeah, yeah. And that's part of my story.
Yeah.
I was dropped for the previous two games before Argentina against Canada.
Yeah.
And again, it's that, how did I go through that process of dealing with the disappointment, the embarrassment, the anger, and going through and playing against Canada, getting the last 20 minutes of the game, goes to a penalty shootout. Tomo says, who's taken the first one? And I went, me. Then I thought, whoa, idiot. You've just been dropped for two games. And I took it and I scored. And my reaction after I scored that goal, I won't tell you what I said, but it was one of that. That's the biggest moment in my football career. And probably, dare I say, in all the life skills that I've had, it was punching the air for that penalty. It wasn't the penalty.
Yeah.
It was being told you're not playing against Canada. You're not good enough to play in the midfield. So going into this game against Argentina, it was like, whoa, I'm feeling, I don't know, feeling strong. Do you know what I mean? That I've just proved somebody wrong, and more importantly, proved to myself that you can do it.
Oh, you powered yourself, absolutely.
Yeah.
Crazy. And I did see something the other day, and you probably enlightened me on it, but there was a bit of thought about walking out for that first game of, trying to get under the skin of what do you do with Maradona? Like, and you end up wishing him a happy birthday.
I did. You're right. I'm figuring, what's the point? And I could hear the studs coming down the concrete,
Yeah.
and I thought, and then he stopped, and he's only that big,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I thought, don't look at him. And
Yeah.
then I thought, no, bugger it, I'm going to
Yeah.
look at him.
Yeah.
And I looked at, I go, whoa, you are only small.
Yeah.
And I shook his hand and I said, happy birthday, Diego.
Yep.
And the look was, you are kidding me, right? We're just going to
Absolutely.
play World War III and
Yeah.
you're wishing me.
Absolutely.
So I don't regret that moment
No,
one little bit.
absolutely.
I'm glad I did, because what's the point? How many times do you say, come on, boys, let's
Yeah.
do it, mate, come on.
Whole thing
Oh,
and all that. Yeah.
please. It's a
Absolutely.
World Cup qualifier. They're the best, some of the best footballers in the world. You're
There's
going to
some
have to be clever, not strong.
Absolutely. No, play smarter, not harder, and all that sort of stuff too, isn't it?
Yeah.
And just as the game went itself, were you building confidence in yourself? I mean, it must have been. It's a daunting thing, and everyone would say it's the best player in the world at the time, and you got to mark him in the game. Were you gaining confidence during the game, going, you know what, my ability was you were dragging on every bit of thought that you had to keep it all positive?
It's a very good point. I had actually learned that lesson the night before, because we had a practice match on an empty Sydney football stadium. And Raul Blanco, the assistant coach, he played that role of Maradona, and that's what he did. He walked around, because there's a certain number of things that Maradona does when I was looking at a bit of vision of him, and he hardly moves. And when you think about it, Lionel Messi walked more than anybody else at the World Cup. So, and it doesn't surprise me, because that's what Maradona does. He just walks, or did. He walks, and then bang, he's gone. So when I went out there, I was so nervous, but I wasn't shocked at what he did, because Tomo had said, have a look at his last two games. So mentally, my mindset was, don't know whether I can stop you, Diego, but at least I'm not going to be, whoa, didn't see that coming.
Absolutely.
And there were a couple of times when I look at that vision and go, it doesn't matter if you're the best defender in the world. Nobody was going to get close to that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Fast, strong, looking that way, play the ball that way.
Yeah.
You know, just had absolutely everything. And I just went, wow.
Wow. Exactly. I mean, yeah. And even when you watch it, and we're talking quite some years ago now, but it's just brilliant. Just ball on the string sort of stuff in it too. And I know that persistency, if that is a word, what wasn't just about the game and being persistent in what you're doing, it was also about getting his shirt after the game too, right?
Yeah, you did right. I asked him the first time, and he goes, no, pointed to the stand.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, yeah, well, I wouldn't swap with anybody either if I was Maradona. You don't want to be wearing a Socceroo shirt, do you? So I'm figuring that he said we'll swap over when we get up the dressing room, up the tunnel. So I'm waiting for that shirt. I wasn't going anywhere. I'll tell you what. And then somebody brought it out, and I thought, yes, thank you.
Much.
And I went back to the Camperdown Travelodge and put it on, because we didn't get changed. We didn't get a shower. We all still had our kits on. And I put it on, and I had a photograph, and thank goodness I got that one. I didn't get the one in Argentina. In fact, he said, when I said, do you want to swap? He's gone, Fidel Castro. And I didn't know who Fidel Castro was. So he must have been a player back in his day. I don't know. But I don't know. It's a very... I show my football shirts that I've swapped all over the country. I don't take that one. Can you imagine if I lost that?
No, I couldn't.
no. I don't know how much it cost. The guy who's got the shirt of Maradona, the Hand of God. Didn't it cost $13 million? Some outrageous amount of money somebody paid for it.
Crazy. And I'd be it'd be under lock and key, which would be a shame, because I'd want to look at it all the time, but have to keep it somewhere. And just as a bit of a segue for that too, and just with shirts, with what you're doing now, the Paul Wade Life Skills, I've read that shirts and just talking about them and stuff like that is what you do. Tell us a bit about how that comes about.
I'd finished my career, and I was working on TV. I was full time on television. I was hosting shows. I was on panels. It was great, and I was doing work for Snickers, Mars Confectionery. So I'd go into schools and I'd run football clinics,
Yep.
2 before recess, 1 after. So I had a perfect balance
Yep.
in my life. Do you know what I
Yep.
mean? And then
Yeah.
as your profile slips, and it does with everyone,
Sure.
it doesn't matter what you've done,
Yep.
your profile goes further and further down. I quickly recognized that. Now what am I going to do? I started off as a draftsman. I was a part-time footballer. I was coaching kids. I was working on telly. Whoa, it could stop. And then I found the football shirts that you're talking about in the cupboard one day.
Yeah.
And it was a careers advisor. And they said, you know what? You've got lots of football stories. I reckon if you can make those stories fit these kids and their careers, I reckon that would work. And from that, I went back through all those shirts and I started to remember all those life lessons. The AC Milan one we talked about. I talked to them about humility, respect, honesty, and loyalty.
Yeah.
The key. Do you know what I mean? Those characteristics. So there's a simple story, and I can put it in the minds of young people or whoever. Do you know what I mean?
Well, as you can probably tell behind me, I'm a bit of a shirt fan myself. And actually, one I've got here, a shirt that you would know pretty well. It's signed by one Paul Wade.
Really? Has it changed? No, it hasn't changed. My autograph's the same. Yeah.
That was actually in 1995. So we're talking 30 years ago. Frank Farina's last game. We played Ghana and won 2-1. And a certain Graham Arnold got on the score sheet that day too. But out the front, and this is how probably times have changed, there was just a low-lying fence. And you guys were just in track, all standing out the front, and people walking past, and some went in and said, "Oh, g'day, how you doing?" And it was, I had my shirt, and I've got, late great Eddie Thompson signed it. I've got Raul Blanco signed it. It'll get framed one day. I keep promising myself. But,
no, don't frame it. Don't frame it.
Makes it hard to carry when I do it like that, doesn't it? But it's one of my most treasured possessions because I'll never forget that day. But again, it just reminds me of the time you couldn't put many sporting teams out in the middle of at the front of a park, probably a couple of hours before kickoff now, and say, "Oh, I'll just sign some shirts and do whatever."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It was so different, wasn't it? We didn't have to beg, borrow, and steal, but we did.
Absolutely.
Because, if we got a gig on the radio, they were only going to give you 5 minutes. Not this interview, but when I work, every now and again doing media, I rattled those answers out real quick because I know they're going to cut me off. Yeah. And so that's the way it was, back in the day. We were more than happy to go to a shopping centre and sign autographs or do what you just remembered about that shirt.
Yeah. Oh, no, as I said, it's one of my fondest memories. And just as I said, it happened to be Frankie's last game as well. Gave him the captain's armband too. Did you have to wrestle that off you, or you being the gentleman, mate, you can be the captain for your last game?
What year was that?
It was in 95.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Tomo must have threatened me.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably another one of his phone calls, right? Well,
yeah. No,
it's awesome.
It wasn't everything having that captain's armband on. I've never actually thought, "Hey, you're the captain. You've got to be better. You've got to be fitter." I just wanted to be my best. And I know that sounds, how many times have we heard that answer before? But it's true.
Yeah. No.
I had no idea, couldn't score a goal. Always my second touch of the ball was a tackle.
Yeah.
That's how bad my first one was. But all the other things that I did in a game of football, that's what gave me the captain's armband on. And for a long time there, it was just the example I set, really, that was the most important. If I had a captain's armband on, it really didn't matter.
Yeah, no, 100%. And mate, I think if there weren't at the start, definitely through those years, there were definitely young kids playing football around the parks wearing a number 6 and taking as many tackles as they could and pretending they were marking Maradona out of a game as well. So we fully appreciate that. Mate, thanks so much for your time. It's been an honor to have a chat to you, to talk a bit of football. As I said at the start, I could probably make this a 4-hour interview, but
Oh, I think we should, and then you can edit it afterwards.
yeah, I wouldn't edit it, mate. I'd just play the whole lot in one big go and just let everyone, a 4-hour drive, they could listen to the whole lot. But look, thanks heaps for your time. I'm sure we'll catch up again soon, and all the best. And yeah, Paul Wade, life skills. Good to see you out and about talking and doing that sort of stuff. I love the soccer shirt idea too. I think it's fantastic.
Oh, you're a good man. Keep up the great work. See ya.
Thanks, mate. Catch you soon. And thank you once again to Paul Wade for being so giving, so generous of his time. I seriously could have spoken to that guy for 3 or 4 hours. We got but a snapshot of everything that this guy has achieved, has lived through, and to be able to take up that short period of time is absolutely amazing. And so once again, thank you so much for just spending some time and just having that bit of a chat, bit of a chinwag, bit of a conversation. It's been an absolute honor, and hopefully we can catch up again very, very soon. Bit of a diversion from the normal stuff we do here on the show. Do not panic. In another couple of days, there will be another episode out that'll be having a look with a double F3 Derby weekend ahead on February 1st. We've got a few faces coming on to talk some football back in the Central Coast Mariners sphere of things. Look forward to bringing that one to you. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Once again, thank you, Paul Wade. You are an absolute legend. Look forward to doing that again soon. Looking forward to seeing you guys again soon. It's been the Marty Mariner Show.